Hello, hello. Great, great. And we are live. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Infinite Reivews, where I review the latest and greatest that I have found on Pathfinder Infinite over the last week or two. Sorry I wasn't able to stream this Tuesday for Booster Bestiary. There was an unforeseen injury only a few hours prior, so feeling better now, everything's going well, and we are going to go ahead and look at all these new cool base classes that have been released this past week on Pathfinder Infinite. And to answer Lava Bean's question in chat, yes, there are two Solarian base classes released on Infinite. They're both for Pathfinder 2e. They are different developers, different authors. They just both happen to release at about the same time. And it's funny, once they were released, I checked them out and deleted my own little, had a couple, just like 1 or 2 feed ideas for a potential Solarian product, as a Solarian base class for Pathfinder 2 is something I've really been looking forward to. I was kind of half expecting it, not really, but wanted it on my wish list when they announced the base classes. Hi, Kate. I wanted to totally see a Solarian base class in Dark Archive, but you know what? Thermitage and Psychic are just as cool as well. But I did want to go over these, as there are 2 different products, and people will probably be asking which one should I get. Although one of them has been selling significantly better, that is not always indicative of which one we should use. Oh, yeah. Yes, and Kit Kate Games tells us that they're sitting here in the same boat and they have one in progress. Well, you know what? You could always take somebody else's base class and use that design from Pathfinder Infinite, just put it in your OGL and release a whole new set of feats or archetype for it. You could expand on what somebody else has done, or even make it pseudo cross compatible, because I will admit both of these classes, from what I've seen, both have room, which we will get into right now. Alright, so I have randomly decided, wow, why is that off? Hold on. There we go. Let's not completely cut off my face. I used to know how to do this. Is it Alt? It is Alt. There we go. Alright. So I have semi-randomly chosen to start here in Adventures of Golarion the Solarian. This was the first one released. Both of these classes, the other one I'll just show real quick here, is Infinite classes, Solarians of the Inner Sea. This one is by Sasha Lorna Harving, being released under Rogue Genius Games, with some layout by LJ Ace and Owen Casey Stevens. This other one here is by Jackson Walsh. So both use the same base proficiency paths. Neither of them will get legendary in attacks, as they both are pseudo casters like you'd expect from a Solarian. For those who don't know, Solarian is a base class from Starfinder where you manifest by default you tend to manifest a weapon, but you could also do an armor, or there's options for a shield or a ranged weapon out of light or darkness, kind of vacillating between the two, out of energy. And you use this energy weapon to do cool abilities. You tend to attune to Graviton or Photon and kind of go back and forth as you charge up for a super attack. And you can do cool stuff like pull things towards you or push them away or light things on fire. Kind of a mix between a soul knife or a kineticist and a Jedi. It's the best way I could describe it to new people. Sure, there's other classes you could kind of compare it to from other role-playing games, but those are the 2 that I tend to tell people about, and they go, oh, okay, I get it. So the one from both of them let you choose between different class paths of either having a ranged weapon, a melee weapon, or armor, or a shield. However, the Adventurers in Golarion does not have the armor form, which I thought was kind of weird, because that was the default in Before Shield in Starfinder, but that's their choice. The Adventures in Golarion one is also based very much on cantrips. They get cantrips that they can use while in Stellar mode, which is a stance that lets you choose between Photon and Graviton when you enter it, and then that dictates which cantrips you could use and how strong they are, and modifies some other feats. And every turn, you go up in level until you reach your nexus at 3 or 4, and then you could use your highest, most awesome cantrips that you unlock at like level 6 and 7. I think your level 1 cantrips also have zenith abilities as well that let them do their super cool attack. Meanwhile, you also get, your weapon or your shield, and you run around hitting people with it. And you get some neat abilities here that let you modify those things. My problem I have with this, if I have to have one, is simply, well, first of all, there's no armor, which is kind of disappointing. But I kind of get it, because they did want to focus on being able to attack with all 3 different stellar modes. A lot of the feats here are simply things like, yes, an attack of opportunity feat, or a move twice and then strike feat. But I feel like there's not enough here to make this like its own special product. It almost feels like a Magus-ish. It doesn't quite do it for me in terms of like, wow. There's no big wow factor with this Solarian for me. It does what it needs to do, but no much more. It feels a lot more like a conversion of Starfinder rather than something new, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. And I could see where people would prefer this product, but for me, it's just not the winner here. It has some neat abilities. It has familiars, the solar familiars. It has a much better shield mode, which I'll get into when we discuss the other product. But the cantrips, frankly, are overtuned just a bit, and they do admit it. There's a sidebar where they say, we know the cantrips are overtuned. That's because you don't have a very good DC with them. But not all the cantrips care about DC. Some of them just buff, and those buffs are a little overtuned too, which is a bit of a problem. Production-wise, it's a little lower in value than the other. There are still some cool ideas from here, and there's even some feats here that you might want to talk to your GM about converting over to the other one. Although the one that most caught my eye for there was just Solar Familiar, which you could imagine what that looks like. You get a familiar with 2 familiar abilities. So there's that. So not saying it's bad, just saying don't like it quite as much as the other option. There's also some things in here where I wonder about, like, it feels like you want to hit that attunement before combat, but you're not supposed to because it's a stance. Not too on board with that. But to look at the other one here, Solarians of the Inner Sea. So Solarians of the Inner Sea starts off, first of all, this has cool information about where Solarians fit in Lost Omens in PF2, which I love that. There's some neat things about where you could find them in Avestan and Garund, potentially from Tian Sha or Ushtalov. Did they do Tian Sha? Taldan, sorry, Taldor, or Ushtalov. Some information here about where they fit into the Pathfinder Society if you want to be from that. Their key ability is Charisma or Other. What stellar manifestation you have lets you choose another ability score between Strength, Dex, or Constitution, depending on if you're doing a shield, armor, flare, or weapon. Which, yeah, I kind of dig that. That was a problem we were having with the Investigator that we talked about a week ago, where, like, it says it's intelligence-based, and sure, some of its class features, that makes sense, but ultimately, you're probably going with Dex or Strength as your highest ability score, and it's weird having your highest ability score not be your key ability score. So, like, I like where they're going with that. The different abilities here, you have an armor. It gives you a cool armor that's around you at all times that flavors largely based on your ancestry, and then solar flare and solar weapon. Unlike the other Solarian book, this one lets you choose different traits that you could apply to your weapon. So you could either have a lower die value, like a D4 on the ranged weapon, but you get 2 weapon abilities instead of the 1 weapon ability you get if you choose a D6. When I first saw that, I kind of immediately went, well, I'd rather have 2 abilities so I could get Agile and Deadly D8, because if I'm critting, I don't care if it was a D6 when it wasn't critting. Then I checked out, and your dice do scale up a bit as you level, so there is a good reason to go for the higher die level, I gotta admit. Plus, you don't always crit, so there is that. You don't gain additional weapon dice like you would a traditional Starfinder Solarian, because you could put runes on your weapon. You could put runes on your armor, runes on your weapon. Just like with the other one, the other Solarian book, they don't need that kind of kineticist scaling like the Solarian had in Starfinder, because they're going to scale naturally as you put strike runes and potency runes on your weapon, which, that's grand. It means you're never going to make the fighter feel inferior by rolling tons of d6s while they're getting more static damage, which was kind of the balance in PF1 with Kineticist, but it never felt like a good balance because rolling tons of dice is awesome and fun. So that works fine. Don't need any more than that. They have some neat abilities that let them improve their skills. Their sidereal influence lets them choose a skill every day and kind of be a little bit better at that one than the other one. And they have a mix of two of them. There's some feats that help improve that further. But what I really enjoyed about this Solarian a little bit more is I was never a huge fan of all Solarians being both Graviton and Photon. Like, there were ways in Starfinder to pick one or the other, but it felt like it missed this potential flavorful option, this path where players would want to choose one or the other, and that is what this product does so well. Let's go to the cover again. That is what this product does so well, is you get to pick at first level as your first level feat, and you can pick multiple, and there are routes here, feats that let you pick multiple, whether you want to focus on Electron, Gluon, Graviton, Muon, or Photon. That is heat, light, gravity, electricity, or entropy. And from there, it adds a level of customization within the class feats that is then further customized by the class path of picking your stellar manifestation as an armor or a shield or what have you. So there's a lot of really cool stuff you could do with this. A lot of the other feats are not hyper dependent on which of the stances you pick. Some of them are, but some aren't, which is really nice. It lets you kind of pick one or the other. It is a focus point based class, whereas the other one was a cantrip based class. Which I think works fine. The focus spells are cool, they're flavorful, you'll want them. You'll pick them up based on your manifestation. The focus spells do stuff like, let's see here real quick to just remind myself. Blast off, give yourself a fly speed temporarily, that's level 6. They make targets flat-footed. If you have your shield and you successfully block, you can make the target flat-footed afterward. And get a further bonus to your AC. They have a target where Star Rush, you could stride up to 2 times and then strike. And as it levels, you could stride multiple times, which I really like that and don't know why I haven't thought of that or seen that before, because I think that's really neat. They have ways to get further resistances with your armor. They have ways to get further ranged with your ranged weapon. Just a lot of really cool stellar spells here. If I had to say anything, 2 little criticisms of this product, if I have to have, one is that the shield, it's not like the shield spell. Okay, the way the shield works is you manifest a school shield, its stats raise as you level, which is great, it needs to, but the stats are not really high enough. I mean, by level 12, you're going to have about 120 hit points on a sturdy shield. On this one, you're going to have, with the best shield, 27 hit points. And when your shield breaks, you either have to repair it, which it doesn't say how. I suppose you use the standard repair options, or wait until your next downtime. Wait until your next daily preparations to regain your stellar shield, which, if your whole thing is having a shield, only being able to block one attack with it for the day doesn't do it for me. I would probably, instead of saying, what they do is they say add 15 plus 2 times your level, you should probably add 15 plus 10 times your level. Which I know seems like a lot, but when you look at how shields scale for hit points, that doesn't. That pretty much doesn't. Plus, I would say when you refocus your focus points, you could get your shield back, because that's your whole thing. You have a shield. How they did it with the other product was a little better, but I still didn't like it. How they did it there was you could get a physical shield and like slap it onto your stellar shield, and your stellar shield now has the statistics of that shield, which didn't make it feel like it was anything special. It just made it feel like a pocket holder or something. I do want to bring up the reactions. The class here only has 3 reactions, only 2 of which anyone could take. And the base reaction that they get at level 2 as a feat option is Orbital Defense and Orbital Guard. Really cool idea. It's that moat. Solarians have a little moat of light or darkness that floats around them that turns into their weapon or shield or armor. This makes it so that the moats can react when you take damage to immediately manifest your weapon or lower the damage that you take, or even strike at the opponent immediately. And then there are feats that improve that. I like that a lot. I do feel like the Solarian needs another reaction or so. I think that not having enough reactions is a problem with a lot of custom classes I see. It's even a problem with a lot of first-party classes that I see. It just pushes classes into wanting to take archetypes, and not everybody plays free archetype. I mean, everyone I know plays free archetype, but not everyone plays free archetype. This class would benefit immensely from free archetype. Oh man, I gotta tell you, this class looks so much fun with free archetype. Free archetype fighter, free archetype hunter, ranger, even free archetype barbarian would be fabulous with this class because it does a lot of cool stuff, but it kinda is thirsting for just those feats that let you like strike twice or strike once and hit 2 people, or just those basic like I want to be a fighter. Which I'm glad that the author of both these books didn't spend a lot of feats, because there's a lot of these cool feats that let you just do really cool stuff, like your sword becomes a giant ray and you slam against multiple people, or you get a fast movement speed and you create a wall of fire behind you as you run. Stuff like that is really cool. Yes, there is a Skittermander with a laser sword, but they need some of those basic combat feats. So you're probably going to see a lot of Solarians, much like a lot of champions, multi-class dedication pretty early on into like fighter, monk, ranger, rogue, or even take one of the martial classes like dual weapon warrior, or dual weapon warrior is a great choice, or martial. One of those classes to improve its action economy a little bit. Not that the action economy is bad. When I first thought of Solarian, I gotta admit, my first thought was, are you gonna have to spend an action to attune? I'm so glad they didn't do that. No, you just attune at the end of every round, and then both products actually give you a feat that lets you like once per hour or once every 10 minutes get a free attunement. That's fine. That's just fine. Sasha's book here did a little bit more about spending your attunement one thing at a time to use certain abilities. I think I might get those two mixed up. You should honestly check them out. They're both great products. I like Sasha's a little bit more, but I might be biased there as I've worked with them and they're a friend. But check them out yourself. Use your own. Check out the reviews. Check out the sales. Come to your own opinion, and feel free to complain about how wrong I was with me over Discord or in my comments or where else have you. But I do have other things I did want to bring up before we're over here. So we have another new base class called the Theorist. This one is fascinating. So this is the first book this person's published, Elio Nagashi. It is from Star Road Academy Creations. It gives some cool background information about where the Theorist fits in Golarion, who this founder of the Theorists was, some monster stats here for a 15th level creature of the founder of the Theorists, this Aphorite gnome. But you're really getting this for the class. This is a 9th level. I can't call it a prepared or a spontaneous caster, which is kind of cool. Like right there, you're like, wait, what is it then? You're going to see. It's a 9th level intelligence-based caster that has a set spell repertoire that can only be changed. You do get your spells back every day, like you would with a normal 9th level caster. I'll show you here's the spell chart here. But your spells change when you see somebody else around you cast a spell. You use the reaction Theorize to identify the spell. And then if you get a success or a critical success, you can change one of your spells of the same level to that spell permanently. So the next day, like the next week, when you sleep and get your spells back, it'll be that last spell that you theorized. which does make balancing this a little difficult, because there's a chance if you're in a party with a lot of casters, or you're playing something like Strength of Thousands, there's a chance the Theorist can eventually get like all the best spells in every level. And that's kind of the balance, that's kind of the point of this class, is it goes beyond traditions to try to become, I could cast all 4 traditions. Which it balances well, because it doesn't get a lot of the extra cool abilities that a lot of the other base casters get. It doesn't get like the extra focus spells that the other base casters would get. Instead, it can change its traditions. It could also dual cast, which surprisingly balanced there, because it's a 3 action cast once per hour that lets you cast 2 spells, one of which cannot be a cantrip, and then they don't actually cast until the next turn. They get a bit of an improvement to the DC, just a +1, and that kind of makes it pretty balanced. And then there are feats you get that improve it. I actually have no problems with this class at all when it comes to balance, despite that seemingly powerful ability of being able to learn spells on the fly based on other people casting them. They do have feats that let them use stuff like scrolls and wands, which normally they can't just use by default. They have the standard suite of feats like Conceal Spell, Widen Spell, stuff like that. They have a lot of really flavorful feats based on theories, learning, expanding on your theories a little bit more. You can theorize spells from a scroll once a day if you take this 4th level feat that lets you do that, which it's kind of like a thing where you feel like, oh, hi, Jackson. Oh, no problem. Feedback on the class. Yeah, that's great. Honestly, when it comes to the 2 classes, I'm responding to Jackson Walsh in chat from YouTube right now. When it comes to the 2 classes, Walsh's class, if you prefer casting spells a little bit more, if you prefer buffing yourself, if you want to feel more like a Magus or a Gish, you should go with Walsh's class. Where if you want to feel a little bit more like a Starfinder Solarian that doesn't focus so much on their revelations, you should check out Sasha's class. That's really the big difference. I'm not sure if I got that across the first time, because Walsh's has some really cool buffs, and you will probably be a little bit... It's kind of half a dozen one to the other. I have my preference based entirely on my own playstyle, but please go ahead and try them both out, because the more Infinite stuff we get, the more great products that we get, and the more great reviews that we get, the more cool stuff we're going to get. Oh, I did forget one more little thing I found here on my notes. The other little criticism I have for Solarians of the Inner Sea is there's no multi-class archetype to it. So you would have to develop your own. It's weird. When you write one of these, it's very easy to forget the multi-class archetype. When I wrote the Shaman for Legendary Games, I will admit the first turnover, I forgot the multi-class archetype and had to very quickly be like, give me 2 hours and pump one out. Ended up taking about 3 hours, but you do have to remember to put in that multi-class archetype for all your base classes, because that is a standard. But both of these, what makes, like we said at the beginning when Kit Kate said that they were working on their own Solarian, what makes Pathfinder Infinite and Pathfinder 2 such great systems is that you could write your own stuff and just release them. You can come up with your own feats and expand on an existing product, or figure out a way that your product and their product could get along a little bit better. And when you come up with these cool ideas, like Alexandra Guinness's Investigator I did last week, when you're at a table and you tell the GM, like, hey, this isn't doing it for me. I feel like this, and this. The GM is now free to respond, cool, you should make that an Infinite product. And there's a good chance they'll be inspired to just pump one out in 2 days, and it will be fabulous. All right, so like I was saying with Theorist, the flavor here is top notch. There's a lot of really cool stuff here about changing the tradition of your spells, and then therefore getting the ability to change certain things about your spells. They really did a good job capturing that idea of being this kind of magic scholar. Ooh, what's that? He's casting a spell. I'm going to figure that out. Cool. That was a really cool primal spell. I wonder what happens if I cast it as a occult spell. And if I cast it as a occult spell, I could apply this kind of meta magic here and make it do this neat thing where I falsely dispel it and they think that it didn't work, but the truth is it's just being delayed for 2 rounds. Or turns it into a weapon, channel into a weapon, and strike somebody with it. There's some really neat stuff here. Finally, I did also want to talk about Novel Illusion's Primal Illusion. This is another thick, great book by Novel Enigma. It is a whole whopping 49 pages long. Their books are chock full of content, so much content. Absolutely incredible. Every time the Novel Options comes out, you should check out all 4 of the Novel Options books. I'm just going to go over one of the classes today, and I'll go over another one next time because I don't want to rush them. The first class in this book is the Mentalist. It is a lot like the Mesmerist from, it felt at first like the Mesmerist from Pathfinder 1E, but you can't come into that just thinking this is a rehash of the Mesmerist. It is not. There's some similarities, but it is not. This is almost like secretly a spell-casting swashbuckler, a little bit more than a Mesmerist. What the Mentalist does is it uses tricks to debuff the opponent while using occult spells. How can I put it? It's an occult gish that is excellent at debuffing an opponent while also doing mental damage. That is kind of the basics of what it does. The basic ability it gets called Mental Blade. When it strikes somebody, it can spend another action to Mental Blade to do an extra 2d6 mental precision damage. And that will increase a little bit over time. So it feels a little bit like a sneak attack, but you have to spend that extra action, which is the good balance factor there. You also have to have mental focus. Excuse me. Now, mental focus is something that you get for no problem, Novel. I love reading your content. So mental focus is something that you have to get depending on your mentality, which is your class path. It's kind of like panache in that you get into it and then you spend it to use, well, in this case, Mental Blade to do your extra damage. How you get your mental focus, depending on your mentality. The Fearmonger gets it when it frightens people. The Insider gets it when it buffs an ally. The Scotomist gets it when it is concealed and strikes an opponent. And the Projectionist gets it when it does mental damage with a spell. So it won't get it from using Mental Blade. That was my first thought was, do I just keep re-getting it? No, it has to use a spell. Each of these gives you a new focus spell. Like Insider gives you an ability, or not focus spell, Trick Cantrip. So you could use it over and over. Like the Insider gets a kind of minor rage, so it could buff an ally to get that mental focus back. The Fearmonger gets kind of a pseudo intimidate, I believe using occult. Oh no, it gets a will save. So it gets kind of a fear spell. The Projectionist, I love the Projectionist, gets you a copy. A shadow copy that follows you around, kind of like the Anko Shadow Slayer archetype from PF1. And the Scotomist gets you a... Ooh, almost got this. Oh, lets you feel hidden to one target. So the target, you hypnotize the target to no longer see you. Cool. What does it do here? Skill feats, Mentalist feats. So it gets its first class feat at level 2 because it is a spellcaster. It uses the spellcast progression you can see here on screen, kind of like a magus or a sorcerer. Not sorcerer. Kind of like a magus. Get us up to 9th level spells, but they're staggered down like that. Because you will be in melee doing or range, you will be doing your martial damage with your weapons as well to get that Mental Blade damage in there. The feats itself, like any other class you expect, some of them go along with the class path, some of them don't. Wish there was a little bit more. No, there's a good number of feats here. There's a good 4 to 6 feats per level, which is fabulous. It's what you want. Some shout outs here. I love that there's a feat called Next You'll Say because I'm a big nerd. I'm a big JoJo's fan. And being able to predict what somebody will say to demoralize them using occultism instead of intimidation is amazing, and I love it. Yes, I'm a giant nerd. The Projectionist has some really cool stuff it could do, where it could trade places with its copy. It can make its copy more real and do damage with it. The copy can start doing attacks as well. If you want to play a Shadow Cloner, this is the best class to do it right now. Go for it. It looks awesome. The Insider gets more stuff to make its allies do more ragey stuff, makes them more barbaric, resist damage, take less damage, get more bonuses against mental effects, get more angry. We can just put it that way. The Fearmonger, of course, makes people more scared. They gain mental focus whenever they do physical damage at level 10 if they take the feat, which does kind of give you that loop of mental blade damage. Mental blade damage, probably going to do it best with the Fearmonger in that case. It's everything that you'd expect from a kind of mesmeristy ability. Mesmeristy, mountebank, type skillful occultist skirmisher. Let's put it that way. It's kind of a skillful occultist, gishy, mountebanky skirmisher. There's a lot of cool stuff here. I believe there was a feat here of making sure an ally doesn't get mind controlled, where it's something called like I'm the boss here, which fabulous. Absolutely love that. There's ways to distract people with illusions to make them flat-footed, in addition to doing your mental blade stuff. So you could really lay on some cool skirmishery damage here. It's grand. It's cool. You're going to be an illusionist. It's kind of like the Captivator spread out to an entire base class. There's another way of putting it. It's like the Captivator taken by a rogue spread out to a base class. Mental Blade is not physical, so it would not trigger Terrorblade. Oh, yeah. I meant the attack that you need to do the Mental Blade would give you the focus that you could then use with Terrorblade. You revel in the joy. Let me make sure I got that right. Okay, so let's go over one build idea I just had. Terrorblade is a 10th level feat. You revel in the joy that comes inflicting pain to those that are experiencing raw fear. You gain mental focus whenever you deal physical damage such as piercing, bludgeoning, or slashing. And Mental Blade requirement, your last action was a strike that dealt damage, and you have mental focus. So yeah, it would help you with that. They Belong to Me is a focus spell that is anti-dominate. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. I will admit one little thing I just want to point out here. I love, like, the formatting here is fine. This is not a criticism of anyone's work here. But with all three PDFs, I gotta admit, I still don't like how Pathfinder 2 puts all the focus spells at the back end of the book. So I'm, like, reading, I'll look at two feats, and both will give me a focus spell, and I'll be like, okay, let's try to compare and contrast these two paths. First, I have to read this path, and then flip to the back of the book for the focus spell, and then flip back here to read this path, and then flip back to the back to read the focus spell. Back and forth, back and forth. I get it. The spells are put at the end of the book. It's how PF2 formats its books. It's how Paizo wants people to format their books, I guess. It irritates me. I don't know why. I don't like having to flip back and forth between the feat that gives me the ability and then what the ability does. Novel says he moves his focus spells to the end of the classes rather than to the spells because it annoys him too. Yeah, and that's a great solution. Because it would look weird to try to put the focus spells beneath the feats. That would like double the length of the feats, and that would be kind of weird too. And it would mess people up who are used to flipping back and forth. I don't know. I honestly don't know the best solution for it, but it's just a little formatting thing that I wanted to bring up. I almost wish, I know you could embed comments in your PDF. It would almost be tempting to, embed a comment so that you could click on a link in your PDF and it would just open up to the complete text of the focus spell or, a summary of the focus spell. But that's not professional. And these are intended to be printed out. Most of these good PDFs I see are divisible by 4 or close enough to divisible by 4 that they can be printed out pretty easily. So there's that. So yeah, to go over these one more time real quick, we have Solarians of the Inner Sea by Sasha Lorano Harving, a focus spell-based Solarian class, including armor, shields, weapons, and ranged weapons, with some great Lost Omens backstory for how Solarians could fit in your campaign. We have Adventures in Golarion, the Solarian, which gives you a cantrip-based Solarian with a little bit more shield options and some crazy cool buffs, plus some more abilities to use up your built-up attunement, but fewer options in terms of what element you can use your solar mote with, and slightly fewer options as to what you could do while your sword is in solar mote mode. Then we also have the Theorist, is a complete 9th level caster that instead of preparing their own spells, or even having a repertoire of spells. They have one specific spell in each spell slot that changes by seeing other people cast spells. And then they could use that to, they could use spells that they know as different traditions than they were intended to be between occult, primal, divine, and arcane to get special abilities added to those spells. And finally, we have novel options Primal Illusion. I focused on the Mentalist class, which is a pseudo-mesmerist, mind-controlling class, all about using enchantment and illusion type occult spells to improve your ability to fight frontline or mid-range as a kind of swashbuckly skirmisher. Who are these Star Road Academy guys? I gotta pay attention to them. Who are these Star Road Academy guys? Star Road Academy Creations. This is the first book from Elio Nagashi. So if you like it, check out their Twitter, check out the book, and tell them that they like it so that we can see more work from them. Because I thought this was a really creative, kind of mind-blowing in a way, in that this idea could have been out 20 years ago with the casting system we have. Any Vancian casting system could have used this. I've never seen anything like it before. So that's kind of mind-blowing. I guess it's a little... no, it's not. I was going to say it's kind of like the Artificer for 3.5, but it's not. This is just a really neat idea. And like I did promise, this next section is 1,000,000% biased and 1,000,000% affects me. I just wanted to announce it somewhere like this. I do have my next book coming out. I don't know when. As you can see, the right-hand side here is just a filler text. Let me pull that out. Bloop. There we go. So Starstone the Ascension is coming out eventually. It's pretty well, I mean, maybe 2 weeks-ish. It's going to be my next Infinite book. It is all based on playing a card game. It gives you rules for playing a card game in character that is intended to actually be played at a tabletop table. Like, it's not going to take 10, 15 minutes. Even the first time you play testing it, it will take maybe 4 minutes to play a whole game. And it's incorporating the lore from Grand Bazaar about a hero-based card game in the Grand Bazaar, and gives your players options for collecting these cards, gives backstory for different people you could play with, different mysteries concerning the game in Merry Gleam Toy Store from the Grand Bazaar. And then these rules for how each hero card has its own special ability in the game, printouts of these different cards. There's going to be at least 2 or 3 different decks that will come free with this product that you could then put into a VTT fairly easily, and there'll be instructions in the PDFs for that, and play with your friends. Each game is literally, you set the cards down, then when both players are done setting, the game kind of resolves itself. It could be played with 4 players, so you don't have to have just one person or an NPC playing while the rest of the party watches. The party could help participate too. Plus, the games are fairly short. And since they go along with the Harrow, it's very easy to incorporate these into your game as a form of divination, in addition to being a game, or as a form of foreshadowing. A lot of fun stuff you can do with it. It's just kind of a personal dream of mine. I always want to make a TCG ever since like 4th grade, so I'm going dungeon delving to be able to afford the latest Starstone the Ascension expansion will be my next one-shot PC's motivation. Yes, there are Lost Hero cards that will add cards beyond the 54. And hey, if people like this, I'd be glad to release little expansions with more hero cards onto this. We'll see if people catch on to this or not. I really hope they do. And most of all, though, I just always want to make my own TCG, and having all these having this is what makes Pathfinder Infinite so special to me, is being able to release products that you believe in, and being able to release stuff that you've always wanted to buy without the pressure of being a complete publisher, and with the art assets of Paizo, is awesome. It's so much fun. It's so cool. I am loving the stuff we're getting. I'm loving seeing the stuff we're getting, and I want to see more. So I promise next week I will get to even more stuff. Please catch me on Tuesday for Booster Bestiary if you want to help me make a monster live at 6 p.m. Pacific. I'm going to get a copy of One Night in Magnamar where you have to play a second game to affect the first game. Got to have a copy of One Night in Magnamar where you have to play a second game to affect the first game. Oh. Okay, yeah, I see what you're doing there, novel. All right, cool, cool. Yeah, and there's going to be other options. I'm thinking of involving. There's some references in there to the Cantrippers book. There's some fun stuff in there. But anyway, sorry, back to this. I would love to see. I always want to see more Infinite products. If you have Infinite product that you want me to review live on the show, please contact me in any of the millions of methods that you can. Millions, dozens, maybe a dozen methods, and any of the dozen methods that you can, and I will be glad to pick up your product. You don't need to provide me with a copy, because what else am I going to do with my drive-through money? And I love supporting more creators. And I will review your thing on the show. So thank you very much. Oh yeah, Shahrazad. I was tempted to make a Shahrazad effect on, what hero card was that? The Theater? Yeah, I gotta admit, the Theater was going to be a location card. It's a card from the Harrow. I was tempted to give it a Shahrazad effect, which is funny because while Shahrazad was a nightmare in Magic where games could last 20 minutes, in this, you could probably make a Shahrazad-ish effect where you just, each player sets a card and you flip it and the minions fight and whoever wins gets some effect. I don't know. I could. We have the technology. Script says we have the technology. There's still time. Yes, I could in fact write that. I think, yeah, what I had the Theater do instead is whenever anybody dies, they're removed from play, and then if the Theater's destroyed, they all come back, which doesn't make as much sense. So I might go ahead and do the Shahrazad reference now that I'm talking out loud here on stream, but because there is still time to modify the cards. It will just be modifying an Excel file, which will then automatically modify all my InDesign files, which may or may not crash my computer. We'll have to give that a shot. All right. So thank you, everyone, for showing up. Thank you for talking in chat. For those of you watching on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, always remember that you could see the chat here on the screen, and if somebody is saying something that you don't understand, it's because they're from a different platform. So I will see you all next Friday for another Infiknight Reivews. I will see you next Tuesday for another Booster Bestiary. I think you'll especially like the Malice Binder in the Primal Illusion, to be honest, based on the Silencer. The Malice Binder, yes, an archetype, yes. Next week I will go over the Primalist and possibly the archetypes in Primal Illusion. I say possibly because there's a lot of other releases. I might want to get at those and then go back to Novel Options Primal Illumis. They're a third week in a row. I'll have to figure that out based on my schedule. We'll see. Thank you again very much for watching. Please check out, as usual, I'm going to shout out to Arcane Mark and No Direction. Arcane Mark will be on tomorrow morning. No Direction is usually on Wednesday. Check them out because they're great streams, and I'm always try to get into the audience and see if I can make the host laugh on camera. I also recommend you check out the No Nat stream from last night, which was Stephen Glicker, Mark Seitfer, and Linda Zayas Palmer all creating a monster together. I don't want to spoil what the monster was, but it was incredible, and I absolutely loved it. So please go ahead and check that out on No Nat 1's YouTube channel. Other than that, I think we're good when it comes to third-party news. A lot of Kickstarters that are getting shipped out, so I can't wait to see how those all come out. And until then, please be safe, be happy, roll a lot of dice, have a lot of fun, and thank you for tuning in. Good night.